What's up, Regen Ag? We're out here today, potato field, and we're going to talk about something brand new that's coming out in the industry. EIQ is something brand new that everybody's going to be hearing pretty soon. Environmental Impact Quotient. Why does that matter to any farmers or you guys at home that are going, I'm just going to grow some stuff in my garden? Well, we have taken, literally, we haven't taken it, but Cornell has taken every chemical that's out there that we apply to these fields, whether it's a fertilizer, a herbicide, an insecticide, a fumigant, and they've created a score to that. So it impacts the farm workers in the field, the insects, the biology that's under the soil that we can't see. But more importantly, we have a score now, an actual metric that we can look at. Then when we're harvesting our food, we know how it was grown. Now, again, how does that affect everybody at home? Well, the most important thing with this is, how do we change that? How do we grow healthier food without using all these protection products? So for example, if you're growing potatoes, there's a product you can use called Success. That gets applied down on the field to deal with CPB, your Colorado potato beetle. If you don't handle those kind of insects in the farm, it'll completely destroy all your foliage, and on top of that, that's going to decrease your yield because the photosynthesis is not happening at the rate that we want it to. So a product like that could get applied down in this field. Well, that gives you a score. It could be anywhere 20, 30, 40 points. Well, at the end of the year, you have a certain point score, and that point score dictates how healthy or unhealthy a crop is being grown. So the industry currently right now is using this score to rate fields. And when I say industry, I'm talking about the big players, the people that are buying all this product to where it gets to us, the consumer, at the end of the day. Now, an EIQ score on a conventional field, the way we've been growing stuff for the last 70 years, can range from 800 all the way up to 5,000. Now, the field I'm standing behind right now is a Regen Ag field that we ran our products on this year, and our score rating is between 200 and 300. We don't have any fumigation on this field, and our protection products are cold pressed neem. The nice thing about that is that score is pretty much zero from a standpoint of how that affects the food, the soil, the biology. So let's talk a little bit about the numbers and how this affects your total score. Now, fumigation can drastically affect somebody's EIQ score. It can be 20 to 30% of how that affects your number at the end of the year. Now, each of these chemicals have a point value. Lower the point value is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get away from all these hard chemistries and focus back on biology so we have healthier food. So for example, you'd come in and do fumigation beginning of the year. All of this is completely gone. They rip the field and they shank in all these chemicals underneath to kill everything underground. Now we can use other chemistries, like I said, a cold pressed neem, azadirachtin, chitosan. This stuff will go in and help eliminate these problems that are here. And ultimately, we want to get to a point where we're not using those chemistries in the field. Some of these things are 20, 30 points per application, and you can have multiple applications in a year. So a farmer can have something between 1,000 to 5,000 for a point score in growing this. Now, why is this important again? Well, in the next 6 years, we're going to be seeing that a lot of these big companies are going to want to see you having a 0 point score or a near 0 point score in harvesting this food. So this has to be grown in a regenerative agriculture format. How do we do that? Well, it's taken 70 years to get this soil to where it's at. It's going to take 5 or 6 years in a regenerative agriculture format to change our soil structure. And that is a standard crop rotation in most farms that we're seeing here in the Treasure Valley. So is it doable? 100%. Can you use more environmentally friendly products? Absolutely. And guess what? We're doing that right here in this field. This field is going to be between 200 and 300 in our point score when we go to harvest. Non-fumigation. Probably one of the only farms in the valley that's doing this right now. So there are ways to do it. This is awesome. It is feasible. You have to change your management practices, the types of products you apply, and more importantly, when you apply them.
So one of the things that's really interesting is about the EIQ is all these products have different scores to them, and essentially the game that we're playing is to get as low to 0 as possible, right? It's like a lot like golf. You want a lower score to produce healthier, safer food that's better for the consumer. One of the things that we're seeing from an agronomic standpoint in the industry is a lot better soft chemistry products that are very effective. You can plug them into these programs that essentially mirror the harder chemistry products, and they work oftentimes just as well. And as you look in, it's all the big players in the game, some smaller players too, but all the bigger players in the game are already starting to do this. The huge agricultural companies are coming up with biological insecticides, fungicides, all those kind of things. I mean, we've got some serious momentum. You also start to look at the big companies that are championing regenerative ag and soil health. I mean, we all understand it. We all know it. If we revert back to before we influenced these crops in particular ways, the only thing that was there to protect this crop, or things that were growing naturally or in our forests, is the biology itself. Biology trumps everything when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to protection, all this stuff. So as we go through and we start to look at how do we protect these things, it's important, I'm going to say paramount, to make sure that we improve the quality of our soils and the biological diversity in those soils. And it's important that we have good tools in our toolbox to be able to apply and protect our crops. Because the one thing that everybody doesn't understand is just how much these farmers have on the line when they're going to raise a crop. Sometimes you might be 1 year away from your entire business failing if you have a big problem that can't be solved. So we have to obviously take care of the soil, take care of the plant health, feed it nutritionally to make it healthy and make it stand on its own 2 feet. But we also have to have some good tools. And as we're progressing in the next 5 years, I think we're going to have a tool chest that's bigger and better than ever, and softer from a chemistry standpoint, that's going to be effective in the field, which is really important.
Okay guys, one of the reasons this whole EIQ thing really excites me personally, I'm very passionate about eating healthier food and thinking truly not just about how the food's grown, but really having rich, nutrient-dense food that I'm consuming every day. One of the things that I look at is why are we taking all these different supplements? It wasn't always that way. And so when I look at the EIQ score thing, it excites me because as people make that shift towards regenerative agriculture and practices in such a way that they are growing healthier food, it's not just about an EIQ score. What happens in that process is you're actually growing more nutrient-dense food through the practices that you're using. It automatically happens as you have a healthier soil system, as you have healthier plants. Your end product, your fruit that you're growing, is going to be more nutrient dense. It's a fact, that's how the plant functions. So why this is important for you, I think that here in the next 5 to 10 years, what could happen as we make this shift is you can pull yourself. There's so much more opportunity for you. You get pulled into different markets. Right now, particularly, everything kind of gets lumped in. Let's say you're a potato grower. Everything kind of goes into the same place. There's no particular value in growing more nutrient-dense food. But what I see happening is that as you grow higher quality food, it moves you into different markets. It opens up new markets for you and makes you more profitable as a grower. But guess what? It's also way more rewarding because you get to think about what you're doing for the end consumer, the person that is eating a baked potato on their dinner plate. And for me, that's exciting being a part and being involved in that, because what I get to do is help these growers produce healthier food that also I get to consume it. My kids get to consume it. We're healthier. We're going to the doctor less. We're spending less money on being healthier people because what we consume every single day is actually feeding our bodies and the functions. And so there's another reason for you to be excited about shifting into this, looking into the EIQ score and why it's important for you on your farm.
So carbon emissions, that's a big topic in the world right now today. Using this EIQ metric as a standard for how we're growing crops can drastically impact carbon emissions. Where do we want the carbon? We want the carbon down here. This is where we want the carbon. We want the carbon in the soil. Plants need carbon to survive. It's the most important aspect of plants. Now, where do we don't want the carbon? Out in the atmosphere. Now, how can your EIQ score affect that? All these products are synthetically made. They're manufactured in a facility. They are then trucked from point A to point B. They're using tons of energy, whether it's coal, electricity, nuclear. So if we can reduce that EIQ score, guess what we're also doing? We're having a positive impact on the place we live in. So EIQ does two things. We get more carbon into the soil where we want it, and we reduce our carbon emissions in the environment as well. And on top of that, we're growing a healthier product that all of us are consuming. Agricultures get a bad rap that we are some of the biggest polluters on the planet. Well, guess what? By reducing your EIQ score, farmers can't get blamed anymore for this. You can say, guess what? I've reduced my score to so low, my environmental impact is very, very, very minimal, and the products we're using are actually becoming a carbon sink. We are sequestering more carbon into the soil. So we can create a healthier environment, and industry cannot say, hey, guess what, farmer? You are creating a negative impact to our environment. So our goal should be reducing that EIQ score so we have healthier food, we have healthier soils, and we have a healthier place that we live in.